Hello everybody! This time I thought I'd talk freely about old art supplies. I think we all have pretty old art supplies that don't spark joy anymore, but we often miss the potential that's in the old art supplies. And I try to use the old ones, even if nowadays I buy very few artist quality supplies. I mainly focus on watercolors, oil paints and colored pencils, and I try to only buy a few at a time and as good quality as possible. But then my history in art making is long. There has been all kinds of times. For example, times when I have been working at the office and I've dreamed about being an artist. I have had more money than skills and I bought all kinds of supplies, and maybe you've been there too. Of course, you can donate those or you can toss them away. But I try to use most of them still. Sometimes it's good to practice and sometimes they bring fun variation to the regular things that you normally use. And for me, these kinds of old supplies are especially all kinds of sticks. Oil pastels, regular pastels, all kinds of crayon sticks, that kind of stuff. These are the things I don't use for the art that I sell anymore, but I still use them for practicing. And I sometimes make a greeting card or something, just a regular crafting. Show some examples of those. I have these kind of Derwent Artbars. I don't think they manufacture these anymore. And you know, it was just many years ago. I went to the local bookstore and I saw these, and it was just that moment that I wanted to purchase some new art supplies and start dreaming again. And so I bought these. These are actually one of my hardest supplies to use. I've used them a lot, quite a lot, because I try to use them up, but it's quite hard because they last very long, especially in the way that I've used them mostly. So I've mostly used them with water. You can use these dry and you can use these as powder. You can use these with water, a bit like watercolors. They have a waxy surface. Not my favorite. The package is really pretty and I've organized them so that they are color coordinated. And I've even made a map which color looks with what on paper, and this is a bit helpful but not a lot. There are not actually any of my favorite tones here, and it's been a struggle. One way that I've used these is here for the sketchbook. So when I want to write something, write about my ideas and then visually create something, so that I kind of go through the conversation between words and images. Those are quite good for these, because when you use water sparingly, you can actually write on them, and the whole process is more like sketching, writing, journaling thing rather than creating an art piece. Here you can see also how I've made sketches of plant-like shapes and then written some of my notes, and there I've used those crayons with water. And I've already made something that is a bit more like a full art piece. There are some journaling, but still it's mostly created with those. And yeah, I've tried to use them a lot during the years, but Yeah, the cover of the notebook is also made from a leftover gouache paints and such. So yeah, all kinds of journals are great places to use those old art supplies. Here are examples of the papers that I still make for crafting. I have a box for them, and these react with water quite beautifully if you layer them up. So try to layer those old supplies and try if they are water reactive. That's one way to, and of course you can always create papers for collage art or for cards or things like that. It's quite funny that when I create these in my art studio, then when I take them to my crafting space and hand them over to the crafter side of me, then the crafter thinks these are brilliant. So that's one way to spread the joy of the box that doesn't actually spark a lot of joy. One of the things that I have struggled to use are oil pastels. I don't have many. I only have this kind of small box of Sennelier oil pastels, and these I don't have lots of these anymore. These are quite short already, especially white, which is great for color mixes. But oil pastels are weird because you don't actually put any fixative on them and you just let them dry. And I always feel that if I use them on my journals, then they might mess up the page that's opposite of them. So I try to just create single pages. Here's one example of a portrait. And I've actually have a course called Innovative Portraits where I use oil pastels with other art supplies, for example with acrylic paints. As a child I used this kind of crayons which were quite like oil pastels. I think they were oil pastels but not as good quality as those are. And I have some, I have even written the title there. It's Northern Life. I think I was something like 7 or 8 or even younger when I created this. Just last week I created this one using oil pastels and then Faber Castell Gelatos, which you might also have. I show them after a bit. So I used 2 kinds of crayons to create this. These gelatos, they are water soluble, so oil pastels are water resistant, so it's quite fun to play with those qualities. And here there are some very delicate stuff created with water soluble crayons, and then some stronger and heavier stuff created with oil pastels. But somehow when I look at these, I think these are endearing couple. You know, a little baby and then the adult one. Much more colors and color mixes and layering here. So layering is always a good solution to bring more joy. I actually quite like this. I like to practice. I don't only paint big pieces. I want to practice between them. One of the things I've noticed that if I have a big break between the paintings, I'm quite rusty. So I like to keep my skill going, and for that all these crayons and stuff, these are brilliant. When I was a teenager, I had this some kind of much thinner crayons. They produced much sharper marks, and often on Fridays when I came from school, I had Friday afternoon when I met my alter ego, you could say. This red-haired girl, and I have several drawings about the adventures of this. This one is called a girl with blue hat, and I think it captures the young Joy quite well. So there she is, and if I compare these two, they kind of have the feeling of the place that I'm still interested in. So the same feeling of the place. Some water, some light coming through the trees. Yeah, I think this is really interesting. So these are the gelatos. And I don't like these, but I don't want to throw them away because, you know, why throw away color when you have color? So these are like lipsticks, these sticks, and something like over 10 years ago, these were really popular for mixed media. These are like lipsticks, and these are very soft. You can use them with water, and it's very easy to put these on top of acrylic paints or whatever you want to put on top, and they produce very soft marks, so they achieve the kind of softness that is often in nature, how the color changes, it changes softly. So crayons are great for that, very easy to create. If you create the softness with acrylic paints or oil paints, it's a bit more difficult. So crayons are great for practicing these kind of soft variations. And then you can just sharpen something so that the image doesn't look all blurry. And you can do that with different kind of pens too. Here I've only used crayons. Then something that you also might have are soft pastels. I bought these when I studied industrial design. We used them with, you never guess with what. We used them with Copic markers. We designed all kinds of things so that we drew them first with usually blue colored pencil. Then we used Copic markers to color them and to create those soft transitions. We used these pastels, but not so that you would think. We scraped some powder out of these, so all my pastels have scrape marks. We spread the powder over the places where we wanted to have this kind of soft transitions, and I've actually used them in that way when I've repainted Breyer horses. So if you want to take the Breyer animals to the next level, you can repaint them with acrylic paints. And then you can use these soft pastels to create all those soft transitions. You see the black foot and how softly it changes. And then I've also strengthen the shadows so that it looks more alive. And then I've added fixative. So there are many ways to use old supplies, and I think that one fun thing is to find out how to use them. How can I make these old things spark joy? How can I use these to strengthen my artistic process and also save the best quality supplies when I want to do my best work? I hope you find this short video inspiring, and I hope you will keep creating.